Welcome to Phil Wilson Chats with Celebrities. And here's your host, Phil Wilson.
Dean Friedman is a songsmith extraordinaire and composer of music for TV and film, releasing his debut single Aerial in 1977 and hit the heights of the Billboard Hot 100. But listeners may be more familiar in the UK with the big hit Lucky Stars with Denise Marcer and, of course, the fabulous song Lydia. And your latest album, American Lullaby, is available now on CD, USB and vinyl. And the legendary Dean Friedman joins me now. How are you doing, Dean?
I'm very well, Phil. How about yourself?
I'm absolutely fantastic. Yes, it's wonderful to have you on the show. After speaking to Denise Marcer just the other week there, I thought we've got to get you on the show and speak to the man himself who penned the song, and you may be able to give your side of the story and see if the stories match up.
Okay. Where should I start?
Where should you start? Well, for listeners just discovering your music, when did you first find you had a talent for music and composition?
Well, I wrote my first song when I was 9 years old after buying my first guitar. I saved up money I earned delivering newspapers until I had a bag of quarters, and I poured them on the counter, and I bought a guitar and learned 4 chords, started playing all those songs on the radio, the Beatles and the Monkees, and started eventually writing my own tunes, real simple tunes. And once I started, I guess I never stopped.
And were you musical at school when you were growing up?
Well, my mom was a singer and performer, so there was always some Broadway show tune on the piano or some aria playing on the record player. So I did grow up in a house filled with music. So music was going to inevitably be a big part of my life. But once I started doing coffee house gigs and, getting paid a few bucks, I thought, well, this is pretty good. Getting paid to do something I like to do.
Indeed, yes, and, to get into the business that makes the big bucks there.
Well, I don't know about the big bucks, but keeps me busy.
Now, what was the first song you ever wrote, and has it featured on any of your albums?
Well, it was called Summertime, and it went, I'd love to take a swim with you in the summertime. Oh, yeah, we'd swim so far in the ocean so blue in the summertime. Oh, yeah.
I love it.
Except I sang it about an octave higher.
Excellent. It sounds like a Broadway tune, that.
Well, it's launched me onto a path of songwriting, and I never quite strayed far from that path.
No, and yeah, you've done very well for yourself. That's what I can say. Who inspired you musically when you were starting out on your musical journey?
Well, as I say, I grew up in a house that was filled with music, Broadway show tunes, classical music. So those were early influences. But once I got a transistor radio, I was fell in love with all the top 40. The Beatles and the Supremes and Herman's Hermits, the Monkees, Dylan, Stevie Wonder. I always had a special affinity for singer-songwriters who were very descriptive and told stories. Folks like Randy Newman, Bernie Taupin, Elton John,
yes,
and Joni Mitchell.
Wow.
Those are the kind of songs I aspired to write starting out, and still to this day I try and paint a picture with words and music and invite the listener into the song.
Yeah, and I think that's something that needs to be done more often these days, instead of people going round and round with the same riff, as it were, because there isn't really a story in a lot of songs. There is a lot out there, but, in the charts and such, like, there's not a lot of that around, is there? Apart from your Ed Sheerans and, people like that.
Well, I think some statistics came out recently saying that the number of words in pop songs has continually shrunk. So
Yes.
there are fewer words in pop songs today than there were 5 years ago and 10 years ago and 20 years ago. But for some reason, I keep defying those trends, because my last album has more lyrics per song than my first.
Right.
So I don't know what to make of that.
Well, that's good. Maybe you're going to be setting a trend there, Dean.
The problem is trying to remember all those lyrics.
Especially when you're on stage and you're singing all of those albums that you've got out there.
True enough, it's a challenge, let me tell you.
Is there 13 albums or something like that you've released over the time? Or is there more?
Well, there are 9 studio albums, but I also have 2 compilation albums and a couple of live albums. I have some kids albums, so there's plenty of music out there.
Definitely plenty of music, yes. And I was listening to your 2017 album just before speaking to you, and I absolutely love it.
I'm pleased to hear that. That's the intent.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Now, your debut single in the UK was Woman of Mine, charting as high as number 52 in June 1978. But your career was going to go into first gear with greater chart success. But we will pick up on that soon, as I must ask you, how did you meet Denise Marcer, and were you a match made in heaven in the studio?
I was introduced to Denise by the person who engineered my first album, Don Palouse. And Don was working with Denise and invited her into the studio, and she sang, and her voice filled the room, and I was really struck by the quality of her voice. And not long after that, I wrote Lucky Stars, and it did occur to me after the fact that she would do a great job of it, and she certainly did.
Definitely she did as well. Now, did you do much promotion for your debut single on the UK chart with Woman of Mine? As with Lucky Stars, I hear from Denise, things rocketed and everyone was going mad for the single. Yourself as a duet couple, and they thought you were a couple, you were all in demand, and fans were wanting also a piece of Denise, I was told.
The record came out on an independent label in the States, and they did a licensing deal with GTO Records in the UK. Now, my label hated the record. They didn't want a duet on the album. They said, "Dean, you're a solo singer-songwriter. Why do you want to put a duet on the album?"
Yeah, right.
And so I had to argue with them and say, "Well, it's a good song. I think people will like it." They actually hated the whole album. I said the Rockin' Chair. They called me into their office and complained that I was a bad artist. I wasn't listening to anybody. They wanted something more solo acoustic like the first album.
Right.
But I'd been working with the band on the road and just learning more and more about rhythm sections and a groove. And so when they told me I had made a terrible album, I just shook my head in amusement, because I was really proud of the album. I knew that it was good and that they were idiots. It just confirmed what I'd known about them from the beginning, that they just were, jerks, and not terribly musical. Anyway, so when Lucky Stars started racing up the charts, they just were totally perplexed. They just didn't know what to make of it.
And did you say to them, "Well, well," said the rocking chair?
There was no point. They just they were not capable of even appreciating sarcasm or facetiousness.
Because a lot of these people in the music business, even, well, I don't know about to this day, but well, maybe. I think a lot of people are looking at business and making money, which obviously is right. But some people who are responsible for the album content and such like, they sometimes don't have a clue, and they don't listen to the artist. Sometimes they just go with, "Oh no, this is right." So and of course they should have listened to you in the first place.
Well, it's the music business. Part of it is music, and the rest of it is business. So it's just something you got to deal with as best you can.
But with you getting onto GTO Records, I mean, that was a really good label because Heatwave are on there as well.
Well, Dick Leahy, who ran GTO Records, was he was a really good label executive, and he had an ear for music, and he had some respect for the artists, which is not true of every label. When Lucky Stars came out in the United States, Lifesong Records in the States didn't have a clue what to do with it. And so they were shocked and amazed when, suddenly there was a hit record. I was not as shocked. Like I said, I had already delivered a top 20 single, and I knew that the second album had the goods. So it was satisfying to see the song prove itself, and the whole album, indeed.
Indeed, and that track as well, Lucky Stars, if you mention it to anyone here in the UK particularly, if you just hum a little bit and you go, "Oh, I'm going to be speaking to Dean Friedman, do you know that song Lucky Stars?" And you go, "Da, da, 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 da." They go, "Oh yeah, I know who that is." Isn't that amazing?
It is pretty amazing. It's the power
even
of,
to this day,
the BBC.
Well, that's true, yes, because Steve Wright used to play your song quite a bit on the BBC, the late Steve Wright.
A lot of them did, and I appreciate their spreading the music and the word. I also tend to think that the story, what the song was about, was like this squabble based on like jealousy. That was something familiar to almost any couple on the planet, and so I think that's why the song was embraced. But it was a little bit of a double-edged sword because it was so over the top, corny, and sentimental that it kind of blacklisted me in venues where it was more important to be cool than to write good stuff. So so that's sort of a battle that I grapple with. Lucky Stars was a song that a lot of people described as their guilty pleasure. Well, I'm way past the point of absolving anyone from being guilty about enjoying Lucky Stars. They should get over it.
They should. Yeah, it's a great track. Now, what was it like making the video for Lucky Stars, which aired on Top of the Pops, and how was it like appearing on the BBC in the days of just 3 channels?
Well, it was frustrating, actually, because there was a storyline to the song, and this was before MTV, and people really didn't have a sense of what a music video was. And I told the video production company, that it'd be great to really act it out like a musical. On a set, but they really couldn't grasp that concept. and just shot a sort of a basic standalone performance video around a keyboard.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was frustrating. But it's not my favorite music video of all my stuff.
No, yes.
But it did its job for that period of time.
Yes, you did a good bit of acting there.
I'll have to listen back to what Denise said about that experience.
You definitely will. And then next time I speak to you, then you can go, right. She said that. Now, Lydia must get a mention, which was your final single to date in the UK Top 40. It's a brilliant song. Was it about someone you knew or still know?
Well, I have to confess, it was during my wayward youth, and the name Lydia was the roommate of someone that I was going out with at the time. I was trying to protect the not so innocent, but her roommate got really mad.
Oh, right. And so did she like the song?
I think so.
So you didn't score any points with her, did you? You didn't take her out on a date or anything and say,
it was
I
a
wrote
long
a
time
song
ago.
for you, Lydia.
A long time ago.
A long time ago. So she hasn't tried to track you down? Or you haven't tried to track her down?
No, no, that'd be impossible.
It would be impossible. Right. Well, if Lydia, if you're watching, Dean's here, I'll get her in touch with you. And maybe you can sing it to her in person.
Anything's possible.
Anything's possible, especially with this technology. Now, on another note, Dean, some listeners may not know this, but you were the soundtrack of the Central TV series Boone. How did you get that offer?
I had been invited to perform at a children's charity function, and they auctioned off a chance to sing the duet "Lucky Stars."
Right.
And the table that won the auction were the production staff for the TV series Boone from Central Television.
Wow.
And Mr. Charkham was the producer, and we sang "Lucky Stars" together. And I got a call just a few weeks after that to see whether I'd be interested in writing some country western tunes.
Yeah.
For the show, and that was the subtext of the show, that Ken Boone was, imagined him being a Texas Ranger.
That's right.
Riding off into the sunset on his handsome steed, and, as opposed to, in fact, he was riding around Birmingham and Nottingham on his motorcycle.
Right.
But they asked for some country western tunes, and I thought, well, oh yes, that's my specialty. So I put on a cowboy hat and got my harmonica and wrote a bunch of tunes and did the soundtrack work for about 5-6 seasons of Boone, and it was great fun. A lot of good people to work with, and just a really cool experience writing to film, to picture, I've always enjoyed the result.
And how long did it take you to get that, over the harmonica? Because that is synonymous with Boone, It would be like if something...
It's a little stuck. It didn't take long at all. It took about
Didn't take long at all.
Yeah. But it was fun. I did the basic tracks here in my studio in New York, and then flew to Nottingham, then Birmingham to the studios there, and overdubbed with a lot of great musicians, and had a great time.
Because it's still very, very popular to this day, and it's. I mean, when people hear the music going along, it really helps the show flow. Really.
Well, I'm pleased about that. I have to also just acknowledge that Jim Diamond composed the great theme song for Boone,
Yes, the Hio Silver.
Hi-O Silver, and I came on board towards the end of the first season, and from then on did all the incidental music and the soundtrack work and the end credits and the songs like He's My Friend, He's My Buddy, the Texas Rangers, Texas toughest man. So
Excellent.
a great experience.
Yeah, it's a great show as well with Michael Elphick and the team. Absolutely fantastic. Now, is writing for TV and film more challenging or more enjoyable than songwriting, Dean?
It's different and satisfying in the respect that when I'm writing, my own songs, preparing for the album, I'm looking at this blank piece of paper and having to conjure up stories, ideas, themes, what it is that I want to express at that time in my life. When you're writing to film or TV, you're handed a brief, a strategic goal for what you want to accomplish to supplement and complement what's on the screen. So you're writing to picture. And in some ways, that's really liberating because I don't have to wonder about what I'm doing. I know exactly what I have to do. And so it makes it easier to strategize how to get there. And that's fun. That can be a lot of fun. And especially on the show Boone, where there's this subtext of country western music, it was an opportunity to explore a genre that I've always loved. I used to go to the Philly Folk Festival and catch Doc Watson concerts, and so it's a genre that I was not unfamiliar with, and it gave me the excuse to really delve into it further and to compose songs in that genre, which songs I'm real proud of and that I still enjoy performing.
And did they send you rushes of the footage over of Boone for you to compose the music, or were you actually there in Birmingham? They would say, you'd have like your studio quite close by, and you would then, do it. Would you do it live, or how did it work?
No, they would send me, rough edits and with notes from the director in terms of what he was trying to achieve. There might be a theme for a particular character. Or there might be a need for a chase sequence or a romantic sequence. And so, I would tailor the composition to what was being dictated by the needs of the storyline at the request of the director. And like I say, it was very different than writing my own independent content, but just as much fun, just as satisfying.
Excellent. It's great to find out that you did the music for Boone. It's just amazing because a lot of people would go, "Who was that person that did the music for Boone?" without looking at the credits.
Well, not only that, but not long after that experience, most of the same cast and crew of Boone went on to shoot a low-budget horror flick called "I Bought a Vampire Motorcycle," about a killer motorcycle that ran on blood, not gasoline. That was the title track that I wrote for the movie when they invited me to do the soundtrack, and that was great fun. So lots of music written to score to the film for motorcycle decapitation scenes and all kinds of horrific bloodletting.
Wow!
It's a classic in the horror film genre, and not to be missed. If it's scheduled late night on Sky TV sometime, you should check it out.
Did it get released on video, by the way, on VHS or Betamax?
Oh yeah, you can get it on video, and I'm sure you can stream it somewhere. I Bought a Vampire Motorcycle. Cinema classic.
You'll have to send us a copy of the script so I can forward the bit where it's too scary, because I'm like a scaredy cat.
It's pretty awful. It's got one of the most horrific scenes in horror film history, but it was a lot of fun scoring that scene. We're just waiting for the follow-up sequel.
Excellent. Well, look out for that one, Dean, then. Excellent. Now, on a totally different, path, your current album, American Lullaby, is out now. What was the inspiration for the album, and which track are you most proud of?
Well, the whole album really is my personal take on all the crazy stuff that's happened over the last, since before the pandemic and the lockdown.
Yes.
So it deals with some, touchy issues like climate change and our polarized politics, and the lockdown, and but I wanted to couch it in terms that would also be embraceable.
Yes. So it'd be a bit more
Listeners.
light-hearted rather than heavy.
So I adopted the idea of a lullaby because you think about lullabies in every culture. Picture a parent trying to rock their baby to sleep and singing a sweet, gentle melody and soothing tones.
Yeah.
But if you listen to the words of almost every lullaby around the world, they're terrifying. Rockabye baby on the treetop, when the wind blows, the cradle will rock. When the bough breaks, the cradle will fall. Down will come baby with the cradle knocking on
Cradle and all. Yes.
Yeah. Well, how is that any way to soothe?
I don't know how that's a lullaby.
Into summer. But I did adopt that as my approach to American Lullaby. I had some serious things I wanted to tell about, but didn't want to send folks running off into the hills.
Right.
So I'm proud of the whole album. Every song on it. I guess the title track may have the most impact to a lot of people. American Lullaby.
Yes.
It tells the dubious history, 400 years of American history, mostly very violent, but also aspirational in terms of trying to do better. And the challenge was to cover all that ground in a 6-minute ballad. But it's gotten a lot of really positive response.
Yes, and I just played it on the radio just the other day, the American Lullaby, and absolutely fantastic. Love it.
Thank you.
Absolutely love it. Now, on a different note, the vinyl revival is upon us. So I must ask you, Dean, what is the first record you ever bought, and what record would you put the needle on as your favourite if you had a turntable beside you?
Well, the first record I ever bought was The Last Train to Clarksville by the Monkees on a 45.
Excellent tune. Yeah.
It was a time where trying to learn the guitar part, I would slow it down to 33 and a half thirds to try and figure out what the guitar lick was at the beginning.
Yep.
The first album I ever received was my dad gave me a copy of Sgt. Pepper.
Wow.
So that was something that I just loved and cherished for a long time. I think the first album I bought on my own was Bridge Over Troubled Waters.
Beautiful.
And all those musicians influenced my writing from the get-go.
And what would you put the needle on the record right now if you had a record collection like I've got in front of me, and now I've got loads of records in front of us. If you're able to go, right, Phil, you've got to listen to this. This is my favorite record ever. What would you play?
Well,
if it was if it was a 45.
It might be Randy Newman's "Good Old Boys" or Joni
Wow.
Mitchell's "Blue." Those are two of my favorite singer-songwriters, and they just tell stories about life with subtlety and wisdom, and in Randy Newman's case, a lot of humor.
Yes. Yes.
And so, yeah, again, major influences in my own writing.
Definitely, because your style is like the style of like Randy Newman and Joni Mitchell all rolled into one there, because you're like narrating, as it were, with your song, with the story and such, like the same as what Randy Newman does and Joni Mitchell, which is wonderful.
Well, yes, I guess I'm a virtual bastard son of those two.
Yes. But yeah, absolutely love the album American Lullaby. Everyone's going to have to get a copy of that. And you've got some great choices there for the vinyl revival. Now, unfortunately, Dean, you're not going to believe it. Time flies when you're having fun. I've run out of time. So it just leaves me to say, finally, could you introduce your title track from your album, American Lullaby? And may I just say thank you so much for joining me on the show.
Thanks for having me, Phil, and hello to all your listeners. The track Phil's about to play is the title track off my most recent album, American Lullaby, which I said a moment ago is really my personal take on all the things that have happened this past few years. But the title track itself deals with 400 years of American history, touching on our history of from the time we settled here, or imagined that we had settled.
Yes.
Although there were, millions of people living here for hundreds of thousands of years, and after when we discovered America,
Yes.
so it's the way we dealt and treated the indigenous population. It deals with slavery. It deals with our obsession and inexplicable love of guns. But it tries to do that in a hopeful, contemplative, introspective way. Because if we're not honest about our past, then we don't stand a chance in terms of trying to improve our future.
Exactly. Well, Dean, it's been such a privilege to have you on the show. And would you like to come on the show again, or have I frightened you away?
That sounds good. And if I could just add that I'm about to embark on a tour. I've got about a dozen or so dates, mostly in Scotland and Belfast and Ireland, and Dublin, and tickets to all my concerts and all my albums and books and all kinds of paraphernalia can be found on my website, DeanFriedman.com. So drop me a line through the website, and I hope to catch up with you folks later.
Excellent. And I'll hope to catch up with you, Dean, when you're in the United Kingdom there. You'll have to come up to Newcastle upon Tyne. You'll be more than welcome. Or South Shields, where I am.
All right, take care then. Have a good one.